Okay, and I'm plugged in and all. Okay, we have the business to do before
I'm serious.
I turn this over to Georgann.
Yeah, you got it.
I thought it was Georgann, so I'm learning. Okay, and she brought some seeds. They're in a box over there, Asclepius seeds, butterfly weed. So she said she'll take any home, but take them. They're my favorite plant, actually.
Which is the Asclepia, the pink one?
Well, there's a couple of different species. This is tuberosa, which is the bright orange one, right? I believe, right? Yeah, yeah. Okay, we have some new members. I don't know if any of them. I didn't check to see if any of them were in here. You all mostly familiar. So, are any of the new members in here? Okay. No, okay.
It's my first meeting, but I'm not.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Finance. Yeah. Main thing I have here is that money allocated for the Towns County Courthouse installation. Is there anything else?
We currently have in the bank $7,350. We need to spend some. So as Terry said, we're going to spend.
Okay.
You want me to talk about that?
About the courthouse? Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So.
Oh. You have to come over here so you stand. Okay.
Okay. Hi, for those who don't know, I'm Wendy Beyer, the treasurer, and I live in Towns County. The Towns County offices were rebuilt last year, and they did some landscaping. Not really. And I have permission from the commissioner that we can do our thing in the beds. There are 5 beds, and Taryn and I have determined that we will start with 2. Let's not bite off more than we can chew.
Yep.
I'm a little concerned about what the dirt looks like, but we'll figure that out. Yep. I'm going to need a lot of volunteers, please, pretty please, with sugar on top. We're going to need to dig. We have a very large tiller, and if someone else has one, that would work. And I plan that we should have a tilling day, perhaps like a day during the week, and then on the Saturday or something perhaps, get a crew there to plant. We are going to purchase some plants probably through My Home Park, which is associated with Doug Tallamy. We can buy in specified packs. Okay. Someone's signaling. We can buy these packs in of all the different flowers, and I've been copiously making sure they're native to this area, which is an interesting thing in itself. On top of that, we also, that's right, the county doesn't have the money for the plants, but we do, obviously. We're a 501(c), so we need to spend some money. So we're going to do that.
Do we have a timetable for when that is coming? The plants are coming in?
I should know that on Monday.
Oh, very soon. Okay. So I'll send an email out so that you can let me know, what works with your time.
Well, today, actually, I meant to bring a printed one, but I'm going to do a quick sign-up sheet for anyone who might be interested. Please just give me your email, your phone number, and your name. And then we'll get in a group chat thingy as to who can do what, where, why, when. On top of that, we also have a project upcoming at Hamilton Gardens, which is at the Georgia Mountain Fairgrounds on top of the hill, the Rhododendron Gardens. We have been approved to do 2 spaces in there. They're going to buy 1 pack, and we're going to buy 1 pack. That was approved yesterday. Okay. And then further, there is going to be another plot done actually in the fairgrounds at the Pioneer Cabin. They need its shade, so that's going to be a little bit different. The others are all full sun, by the way. So we're going to do a lot there, and that will all have signage. I'll have to go out to the car and get it. We have signs that go up that say installation by North Georgia Mountains Chapter, GNPS, blah, blah, blah. And they now have a QR code on them so that people can zap that and go straight to the website and join up, be part of the party. And on top of that, also, I have some signs that are member of. There is one at Hamilton Gardens, as they are a member now. But if anyone would like one, I can get them printed for you at Blairsville Printing, and I'll go out and grab them. I forgot they're on the back seat, and bring them in for you to look at. They're like $28, I think, with tax. It's a metal sign about this big. Okay, so we can get the word out. That's all.
Yes?
You might want to think about whether you want to put and it might be an iffy thing, but I don't know, I'd throw it out. A signage somewhere for the building for the people who work in the government building. You might have some gardeners in there. You might have some people who've never heard of the North Georgia chapter of, you know,
So recruit
Native
people
Plant
there.
Society.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, recruit some volunteers to help, announcing that it's going to be done. And does anybody want to help?
On top of that, a development on that too that's exciting. Remember, we discovered there's just a water hose there.
Yes.
Catherine from Hamilton Gardens, the curator, she originally did the gardening way back, and she said the county put in a watering system, and she knew how much it costs. Wow. She's actually going to go to Cliff, the Towns County Commissioner, and say, she's working with us, and perhaps he might want to put that back in. So I'll find out how that goes. She's gonna
That'd be great. Yeah.
twist his arm.
Okay. Good. Is this working okay? Okay. So thank you, Wendy. You actually were responsible for like 5 checkoffs on my list here. So that's good. Other projects, Beasley Knob update. This has like been 2 years in the works, but because it is a cooperation of a number of different organizations and it has Connect to Protect certification, we need to get it meeting those requirements. So every second Monday we have the work day there. Robert's often there. In October, we're going to be doing some planting to plant stuff that didn't make it through so long. So October 13th is a planting work day at Beasley Knob. Recent events, our summer field trips went well, despite not necessarily going according to plans, but it turned out fine. We had one where our guide got sick that day, and so she wasn't able to be there, but there were enough participants who knew, this person knows about that, and we pulled it all together, and it ended up being a very nice little expedition. Okay. Upcoming events, information table at Brasstown Ball, which was originally going to be handled by over here, Kim, who ended up breaking your hip. Anyway, so it has been now picked up by Andy over back here. So I don't know if you guys need to communicate at all between each other, but we also have here Krista, who is the coordinator for that. So she's going to be someone that you're going to definitely want to communicate with there. Is here and can answer questions. So if you have any, and then Anna Ruby Falls, which I don't have the date for that one, but we have another information table there, but we'll be back in town. So my husband and I will be able to be there for that one. The spring tables were useful in getting information out, so hopefully these will do likewise. Okay. Any suggestions for 2026 presentations would be welcome. So just let me know if there's somebody that that could be an interesting speaker, because we have the speakers lined out for this year, including November, where we have Bill Ziegler talking about okay, the wildlife of the plant. Okay, so he's going to be our presenter, and we have our October's about timber industry, but we don't have anything for 2026 yet. So, okay, anything else there? Yes. There's a copy of that up there. Yeah, it's the agenda. Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, introduction. Oh.
This is the member one.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, now let's let her have some time here. Georgann has dedicated her life to serving the human and natural communities, teaching 28 and a half years at Fernbank Science Center in Dekalb County, where she wrote dozens of articles for their publication, and designing and leading courses on identifying birds in several states, countries in Central and South America, and in Africa. Like, wow, to me. And certifying parks and properties as wildlife sanctuaries. She has won several awards. She gave me a little list of all that too, in education and writing, and has held many offices, mostly but not all related to ornithology, the birding. We are very honored to have her here teaching us about the connections, specifically connections between native plants and the birds that interact with them via pollination. So that's a shortened version of an incredible life that she has worked for us. Okay, anything else you need me to say before?
Not about me, no.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Taryn. I don't need my car keys. So, yeah, a lot of that was many, many years ago. So I'm relegated now to mostly doing field trips and classes like this, master naturalist classes, and the Georgann County Women's Club takes up a lot of my time being an officer in that. One thing I'd like to mention before I forget is I've got about 3,000 square feet in the backyard. It's pretty sunny. I have mostly 80% not native pollinator plants, 20%, as Doug Tallamy says, things I just like. Darn it, I'm going to have it in there, but I'm in the process of getting rid of those too. When you get your native gardens going, how many of you have a little pollinator spot? Okay, you'll notice that you have no weeds, not many weeds, because the natives crowd them out, but they start to spread. So right now I've got things like blue corals. Does anybody know blue corals? Amazing, isn't it? Oh, yeah, it is a little aggressive, but that's when you get to the point like the columbine. I have columbine coming out of every place that you want to give it away. So I'm inviting you to get in touch with me anytime you want between now and say November, and we'll just dig up some of the stuff that I've got. Blue mist I was pulling out, couldn't find anyone who wanted it, so I threw it away. Yeah, but I've got a lot more. So my phone number's up here. Just text me or call and see, are you going to be home Monday at 2 o'clock? And probably I will be. And mornings are tough because I do my birding in the morning. So anytime afternoon, it's perfect time. I'll meet you back in my backyard and get you some seeds from things and also some actual plants. One recommendation that we've gone through the plant small spots at various places in downtown Dawsonville. If you've been to downtown Dawsonville, you know there's nothing there much except the square. But there's the courthouse and the city hall, farmers market. So we have the city of Dawsonville, not our money from the women's club, but the city built us the beds for it. Rather than tilling in the ground, we just did raised beds. And they bought the soil from Chippers down off of 53, and say the bee balm that you grow in your yard and your clay, which I have clay. And if you can't grow in clay, then I'll get something that can. But it's in the clay. My bee balms, the miniature one, the dwarf one's about this big, others this big. The ones in the bought soil, as you can imagine, in the beds are this big. I mean, it's amazing. It's almost embarrassing. So right now, we have 14 beds right now. In about 10 of those are things like black-eyed Susan and I can't even remember all the things that need to be dug out, and we give those away too. So that's another source if you want to save a little bit of money. What started all of ours was I wanted Dawsonville to become a bee city, and they required plantings and a product that will look good, and then information education on that, which you all are perfectly set up to do if you think you want Blairsville to become a bee city. It wasn't that hard. You had to jump through a few hoops, and every year it's $100 a year, and after that you have to show what you've been doing, having maybe open houses for your plants, and the one thing we're behind in, which maybe you can help me with, is the pest control. They like the native biological pest control, and we really haven't gotten into the one hardware store that we have in downtown to make them change over or get more of the natural stuff, the biological stuff. But that's the only hurdle we haven't solved with becoming a bee city. But the city bought the signs. We have big signs up there. So, work with your town and other agencies. You don't have a women's club up here, but there's probably is one close by that might help you as an environmental project. Any questions on that? But get with me on that one too, but especially the plants, because I hate just throwing them out. And our black-eyed Susan would fill two of these tables that we gotta get rid of. So just come on down anytime. All right, so Taryn wanted me to do something with vegetation and plantings, gardens for native plants, for native birds or birds that just happen to wander through. So I threw this together a couple days ago, and there's some new slides in here that I've put in on purpose every time I do a new program so that I get entertained also and get surprised once in a while. So if something's out of place, it's just because I forgot I stuck it in there. So our objectives are to realize how all of these birds fit into our ecology. They have specific niches. Every place you look, if you mess those up, you change the trophic levels. If you get rid of your predators, get rid of the insects, you're going to change the whole ecology of an area. So if you understand what the ecology is of birds in your backyard, birds at Brasstown Bald, birds at Soesby Cove, and what they need, you can get more maybe involved in planting what needs to be there. And the other is, exactly which species do you want to concentrate on, say, in your yard, maybe hummingbirds. How many of you have hummingbirds right now? Yeah, okay. This is like preaching to the choir here. You sure? Extra help never hurts. Okay. I started this particular program back in 1980 with the ninth graders at Fernbank, as the ninth graders who were interested in science came to Fernbank for a semester, and we had them the whole morning, and we rotated 60 of them in groups of 10. So 6 groups got rotated through the 13 different sciences that we did. And Jim back there with the name tag on, he's my husband, and he did meteorology with kids. He had them working the weather maps and doing all this great stuff. I did mostly birds with them, and they liked the bird stuff, but I thought, well, I'm going to try something different with these kids, and I created this one. I'm going to try it with you too, because it explains what's missing in a habitat that you may not have realized. Okay, so basically you're going to have a hamburger, and it should look like that at the bottom. So the first thing you have to decide, what kind of hamburger? How do you want it cooked? Do you want a vegetarian hamburger? Do you want beef? What kind of hamburger do you want? Then you have to decide what kind of bun you're going to put it on. A sesame bun, poppy seed, whole wheat, white bread, whatever you prefer. And then you're going to put on all the condiments. And I had to be careful with this because these were ninth graders. So I had to be careful with how I pronounce condiment to them, because they, you know how they are. Anyhow, so you put everything up here that, say, a class would recommend, and you write it up there, and then you look at it and say, well, there will be no avocado on this hamburger. How many of you can still eat it? Raise your hand if you can still eat a hamburger without the avocado. The rest of you can't touch it because it has to have avocado? Okay, you guys are fussy. So you get rid of the avocado, and you lose half your crowd. They can't eat it without that. Then we're going to have to get rid of the sloppy stuff. No ketchup, no mayo, no mustard, because it leaks out all the time. How many of you can still eat a hamburger without ketchup, mustard, and mayo? You can still eat it? Yes. All right. And we're going to get rid of, to make this quicker, we're going to get rid of all the condiments. The buns, they got fuzzy blue stuff on them, milk mold. So we're going to throw out the buns, and your hamburger kind of stayed on the grill too long, and it's just a little hockey puck, okay? So I think there were only 2 of you or something that would eat it without, how many of you can still eat it just as a hockey puck? Okay, we got 1 person. So then you switch this to birds or plants or anything, or insects, and all those things can be there, but if you don't have the one thing that really makes you eat or stay or survive in that habitat, then you're out of there. And so when you go outside and you look into the woods, and this is what the kids would do. They walk through Fernbank Forest and they would say, I don't understand why there aren't any scarlet tanagers nesting in here. It looks good to me. And I said, well, they need taller trees. They need tulip poplars for the insects. They need seeds and stuff, and that's not here. And they start, oh, and I heard one kid in the back say there wasn't any lettuce. So they understood that when you look into a habitat, there's a lot to it. And it can involve not only things they eat, but the animals, how they live, where they nest, what kind of water source do they have, all that sort of thing. So it makes your eye a little sharper to realize that maybe just putting out a couple things isn't enough. We got to know what couple things to put out. So that's what a little bit of this is going to do for you. And you got a ton of handouts back there that will also augment that. Any questions on this? It was fun to do it. And you could use a pizza if you don't want to. In Central America, I use pizza for this because kids down there don't eat hamburgers, but they do eat pizza. So that was a little different. All right, so what ecological levels do these animals live in? You know the pollinators, which is mostly the hummingbirds because they're adapted to those pollens one does. Let's see what happens. So hummingbirds, their main function is to transfer the pollen because when it comes to plants, it's all about me, pollen. Pollen needs to be transferred from one stamen to the next. And so the hummingbirds love to do that. They tend to pick certain flowers, and they're actually better pollinators than the bees and the hummingbird and the butterflies, moths. They're actually better because they last longer, they live longer, they fly farther away. They can do more pollinating in one day than a bee or a butterfly can do. So what they're best at doing is sticking their face down these long tubes, and the plants are all modified and evolved so that the pollen is an easy place to rub your head against. And you'll have people come up to you and say, I found a hummingbird in my yard at my bird feeder, and it had a yellow forehead. I couldn't find it in the book. And so you say, that's the pollen that flower put on it. So they're evolved together, the two of these critters. So here's one that is actually feeding. I'll go fast past that. And in some cases, the flower has not just evolved to get the pollen passed easily from the stamen, but also from the inside of the flower. So the bird has to reach way in there, and no other animals can do that except the cheaters. So you've got a swordbill that has evolved with these long tube-type flowers and to reach the nectar, and also the sicklebills that have a bill that is, and there's many more of these types of hummingbirds down in Central South America that are adapted like this. The best color for any of the flowers you put out, the best shape obviously is the tube shape, but the best colors will be the purples, oranges, and reds. Yellow is not real important for hummingbirds, so if you buy a feeder that has the yellow little discs on it to aim, that's one thing you should probably take off or not buy that feeder because that attracts the bees and that can interfere with your hummingbird. So you might want to just either put red shoe polish on it, or not shoe polish, fingernail polish on it, or get rid of the yellow. But they're starting to make these bird feeders without the yellow. So these are the colors you want to stick with up here. Want to plant in large masses. Remember, these hummingbirds are going from flower to flower to flower. They would appreciate it if you put their favorite flowers close together as opposed to 20 feet apart, because that uses more energy on their part, but they'll still use them, but this would be a little more user-friendly, and it makes a nicer impact when people drive by your yard and see these things. Big diversity in the plants. You want things that bloom at different times. That's the biggest problem, I think, with native perennials is that they'll bloom early, like the columbines bloom in early April, up here probably mid to late April, and then they're finished blooming 4 or 5 weeks later, and then that's when you get your salvias coming in and all the other things, and then they die out at about middle of June, and then pretty soon you get your like right now are the mountain mints coming up, and black-eyed Susan. So you want to stage it so that you've got something blooming all the time, and especially during migration. So that's April for the hummingbirds and September right now for hummingbirds. You really want to have something out there to take the place of what's no longer blooming from back in the spring. This looks probably like your yards do right now. You wish. I wish too. So what is the nectar? It's interesting if you look up a plant and try to find where the nectar's made, an illustration of a flower, only about 1 out of 100 have the nectary drawn into the plant. It's interesting how the most important part of these things is the nectar to get the pollinators to go to it. And unfortunately, they're not listed on illustrations. So it's unusual, I thought. But what the nectar actually is 3 different types of sugar. You've got sucrose, glucose, and fructose. Fructose is one that goes through your liver if you're a mammal or I guess maybe insects. And that's the one that's kind of tough on our livers. So people nowadays stay away from fructose. They'd rather have sucrose. It's healthier. Hummingbirds don't care. They can digest sucrose, any of the sugars that are out there. I'm not too sure about the insects, the bees and things, but most of the hummingbirds can deal with that. So the digestion is easy. This is where a non-native will vary for you. A lot of people say, what's wrong with non-natives? They're the right color, they're the right tube shape, everything about them looks fine, they bloom at the right time. But the problem is for example, the nectar volume. A plant that has more volume in the nectary, more nectar in there, the better it is for the hummingbird, because they're going to eat a whole lot more than an insect, than a honeybee or a bumblebee. So you want to have something that has enough nectar that they evolved with, that has lots of nectar in it. Sugar concentration, it can be more sugar than a non-native. Your native plants have better sugar in the sense of the quantity and also the viscosity. So the thickness of that sugar water makes a big difference too. So these are a couple of the things that the non-natives don't provide. So if people, they look at me like I'm crazy. What do you mean you don't put in a sweet shrub or something that's non-native, or a beauty berry that's Asian? Yeah. And I say, well, this is why, because the sugar is different, the landing areas are different for the hummingbirds to land on or not land on, the tube shape is different, a lot of subtle things that have evolved with each other. All right, the hummingbird tongue, interestingly, it's a long tongue that doesn't fit. And so the hummingbird's tongue goes way back behind the eyes into the back of the skull, and the origin of it is in the crown of its head. So when the tongue is stuck out, that tongue doesn't disassemble from the crown of the head, but it stretches out all the way, like a rubber band would stretch all the way out. So I don't know, I always try to think, how does that feel in your head when your tongue goes all the way back to the crown of your head? But it gives you an idea of how long that is. So you can reach in, like that swordbill can reach in pretty far. They eat about 14 times their body weight every day. So let's see, if I ate, well, never mind. That's it seems like a lot to eat, but they're little guys. Their stomachs are little, and they only weigh 3 grams. So next time you have a dime loose, hold a dime. You got about 3 grams. That's a hummingbird right there. So it doesn't take much to fill you up. So, but you still want it available. They also have they've done some nice pictures of the tongue itself. It's actually made up of 2 parts, and these little fringes are very pliable. And what happens with them is the tongue will connect itself, sort of like you see these pictures here. So when the tongue goes into the nectary, here's the nectary, here's the tongue, those little filaments are closed. And the tongue goes into the nectary, into the sugar itself, the sugar water, whatever you want to call it. And as it comes out, it opens. And just by filling up that vacuum and coming out of there, and then it closes to swallow it, is what's causing it. So it's not a capillary thing where the sugar is just stuck to itself. It's not a sucking type thing. It's just a difference in nothing can get in it, open up, here comes the nectar, we pull our bill out and our tongue and squeeze it again, and it forces it down your throat. And they do that, I don't know, something like 40 times a second, which I don't believe. I don't see how anything can happen 40 times a second. All right, so we have trumpets, some of the plants that you can put out there, the Campsis radicans, the trumpet vines. You'll get, all the hummingbirds can use that. I want to jump to the cheaters, which I will in a minute, but they like those little flowers, and they're the good bright color. Hot lip salvia, a lot of these are blooming earlier in the summertime, back in April and May, so you may have some of these already. I have cardinal flower coming out the wazoo, so if you want some cardinal flower, my house. And they also will have seeds, and I'll be giving the cardinal flower seeds away, which I don't know who has cardinal flower. Okay, the little round seed pods are out, but they're not brown yet. But once those turn brown, the little seed pods from the bottom up, then you open those up, and it's like a whole handful of cinnamon. Those seeds are so tiny. So I'll probably be filling about 100 of these. People in our neighborhood and people I know think we're sick a lot because I probably have 300 pill bottles down in the basement. And as you can see with the milkweed seeds over there, we put information inside and label on the outside, and we give them away to I give them to my dentist, I gave them to all my friends. Anyhow, so that is one. And what will happen with cardinal flower, it'll make a little base of leaves coming out without the tall stem, and that will mature over about a year. And I had about 300 of those in one little spot, and then they were area about this big. We're not talking of room size, only about the size. What, I'm sorry?
does the base of the cardinal flower get bigger?
Not a whole
Over time,
lot.
no?
It puts its energy this way with leaves and stuff, like you can see. But that stays the same. If you see those near your cardinal flower, don't let them get covered by leaves or mulch. They need to be open to the sun and sky during the winter. Otherwise, you'll kill them. And you can dig those up very easily. In one shovelful, I had 10 or 15, and give them to somebody or transfer them to somewhere. These tend to come up where you didn't really plant them. You plant it here, and next year they come up over there. So don't worry, but you can move them back if you need to. But the main thing is to get those seeds. This doesn't have any of the little things, but they get little round balls that are filled with the seeds. But I have enough of these probably to give you at least a start, if not a thimble, a bottle full. Bee balms. You have miniature bee balms now, dwarf bee balms. They only get this big, and then the other ones that get a little taller. I don't do bee balm well in my yard. I don't think I get enough sun, but the other plants in open places like the library, it's doing very well. And this is from my yard, the bee balm that's out there. I have a couple, 2 or 3 different colors, but it comes in a white and pink too. Anybody have bee balm, Monarda? Yeah, they're pretty amazing. That's good for hummers. Jewelweed is my favorite, not because of the flower necessarily, but the seed pod, because once the little tiny seeds turn black, if you touch it, what happens to that seed pod? It pops. And it's so much fun to do that to someone like a little kid, because they don't expect it and they scream, or even their mom, they'll jump because the seeds just pop. That's a lot of fun to do. But this is a great thing that will grow profusively, and it does get damaged by the rain sometimes, because we had a heavy rainstorm the other day and 2 or 3 of them were knocked down. But I got one of these seed pods at Amicalola Falls State Park, up at the top of the falls, about 3 years ago. I got one pod, and I got it so it wouldn't burst. I put it in a plastic bag. And when I got home, I put it with the wettest spot under my bird bath. It has a dripper, and so it stays a little bit wet there. And I put that one pod there, and the next year I had an area this big. So this stuff grows well. You don't need mine. Just find some out there and gather those seed pods up. Also, Anna's hyssop. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. It's kind of a fuzzy looking flower. Doesn't bloom for too long. Mine's starting to bloom again now, so that's good. But that's, again, this is a small tube type flower. And so you get a lot of bang for your buck here, because a hummingbird could go into about 50 flowers within a foot of each other. So that gives them a lot of access. And then if you've got some trees, the buckeyes, of course, are always good. This is a small one that I got someplace. The actual foraging, I mentioned a little bit. The hermits, which we don't have here, but it's interesting how they do this, is one that follows, just like a trapper, follows their traps around. And the hummingbirds, just like a trapper that's trapping whatever, they have to know where their route takes them. Then they have to know how and when to get back to the first one that they were at. So they have to give that first flower, in fact, no matter whether you're a trapper or not, time to make the nectar again. So if you go to another flower and then come back to the previous one, you've wasted your time, because it takes 20 minutes for that flower to grow nectar. So you got to know what time it is, what your route was. It's amazing what these birds can do. And so the trappers, we don't trap liners. We don't see those too often, but I'm sure we probably have a few that do a little bit of trap lining. They have a little path. Trap lining so many plants in short visits. The advantage is they're dependable. At 10:30, I can go back to that plant, and I'll do that every day. They can be taught. You can show them to your young, or they'll follow you around. Oh, shoot. Oh, that was animation. Oh, darn it. Okay. Yay. Okay. Oh. Oh, no, that's the coming and going. It's not a video type thing. It's when something comes in. Yeah, let's skip that one. Oh, okay. So remind me next time if you see movement up there. And then the ones that you've got, your ruby-throated hummingbirds, these are territorial, and that's why they dive bomb each other so much. The young males will do that. They're the ones with the little red on the throat. The females will do that. You have to remember the male hummingbirds are very promiscuous, and it's one of the most promiscuous birds out there. And so they have about 10 or 15 females to one male, and so he's got to keep the other males away from them. And they do it all summer long until they leave here. So they're very aggressive with each other. Why? Who asked that?
Because one of them that spends much time fighting.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Yeah.
Somebody told me you should have several feeders
Mhm.
about 15 feet apart so that you can have
Yeah.
several males.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
You can do that, put them really far apart or put them around the corner of your house so that they can't see the other feeder. Yeah. But I did a workshop in Mississippi a couple of years ago, and they had 4 feeders within 20 feet of each other hanging from the side of the house. And there must have been 30 hummingbirds at each one. And they got along just fine. I don't know. It was spring migration. They were hungry. And so they probably didn't care about the other guys as long as they got a perch once in a while. But it was amazing.
Somewhere down
Yeah.
in many
Yeah.
birds.
Yeah. A lot of
I
birds
don't
down there.
understand how that-
I don't know. And there was a guy up north of Clayton that had 10 feeders on his edge of his roof, and he had over 100 birds at one time. But I get maybe 6. They also say for every one you see, there are 6 more that you don't see, because that hummingbird that keeps coming back to your feet, it's not the same bird all day long. So, but they'll be here till about the middle of October, and then leave your feeders up and keep changing the water. That's when you get wintering hummingbirds, rufous, calliopes, black chins, broad bills. You get all those western birds coming east, and there have been some. The buff-bellied hummingbird came down to a friend of mine down in Valdosta 7 years in a row, 7 winters in a row. The same bird, it was banded, and I had a rufous come 2 years in a row. So leave your feeders out, and you might get a western hummingbird. So that's pretty cool. We don't get enough bears. The only time I worry about my feeders is when it freezes. And then in fact, we were going to Costa Rica one time in February, and I had to keep the lamp on it during the day. I took it in at night, put it out, put the lamp back, because it didn't get above 30 for about 3 days. And I'm thinking, my God, which one of our neighbors is going to come it's going to come over and do this? And the bird left before we left, so I think it was okay. And they're also predators too. They will get a lot of insects. They get spiders, not Joro spiders, we wish, but they do get a lot of the little spiders that are in the corners of your windows. They also use their webbing for the nests. So, if you don't want to be cleaning out the corners outside of your windows, or maybe even inside, but the outside ones, then just leave that, because the hummingbirds will use that for their nests and getting the spiders out for you. All right, somebody eventually is going to come to you and say, I have 4 different kinds of hummingbirds coming to my feeder. And you have to kindly explain that obviously, and y'all know this, the ones without anything going on in the throat, like red, that's a female. Could be a young female, could be a young male, but probably this time of year it's a female, because most males, young males, are starting to get a little bit of red in the gorget, in the throat. Females have the least, then a little bit here, and then lots of red here. That's a nice adult male, hatched out at least 2 years ago. And then every once in a while, since this is a refraction of the light, you're going to get no red. It might be green, it might be gold, it might be black, and therefore you've got, a green hummingbird and a gold one and a black one, and they want to know what they are, and they all have yellow on their foreheads too. So anyhow, spending a little extra time on the hummers, because everybody has questions about hummers and whatnot. So here's just a brief list of things. If you have your cameras, like some of you do, just take shots of this, and it gives you a bit of a guideline to what you might have coming. To give you a chance to get a... Okay.
So foxglove, you
Don't have...
you're talking about native foxglove.
Yeah. Yeah, the one that's, if you touch it, you die. Yeah, they're quite poisonous. And I don't think, no, I didn't. I didn't put in the cheaters. The cheaters are the bumblebees. You watch bumblebees at your tube flowers that are more than this long. They don't like to go in them because they don't fit, for one thing, a lot of times. So they crawl, they walk down to the base where the nectary is, bite into it. And there are other birds down in South America that have a hook at the end of their beak, and they walk down and they hook into the nectary without going through all that. They're not pollinators, so it's cheating. It's cheating the plant to not get pollinated then. All right, the frugivores, they're the fruit eaters, either hard fruit like the acorns, or sometimes, more often, the soft fruit. This is an acorn woodpecker that puts his acorns for next week or a month later. He comes back and gets these. A lot of birds do that. Blue jays do that. They bury them. And if the squirrels don't get them, sometimes an acorn will actually survive and grow into an oak. But they're reseeding the whole forest, especially when there's been a fire, something, to have them go out there and plant their acorns, anticipating going back. And they either forgot or the acorn, they got eaten by something else. The good news about the fruit eaters is that they are helping to transfer the seeds from one place to another. So in this case of the robin, he's eating that whatever soft berry that is, juniper or something, whatever. And he's going to fly away, and not directly under this tree, because that wouldn't be helpful to the tree. It's too shady because its parent is there. It'll fly 20, 30, 40 feet away and poop, and then the seeds come out. So he's going to help dissemination of these plants. The bad news is they sometimes get into plants we don't want to be spread. And so you've got, I forget what this is. It's a Lonicera that is not native. That's not native, I don't think. But sometimes they're doing it to native plants. But in the case here of these guys, what is this? Your favorite? Privet? Yeah, privet. Yeah, and that can, the entire understory of that forest is privet. And you can go in and kill privet, you can pull it out, but you gotta get every piece of root. So what most people are doing now with privet is cutting it and putting a little dab of brush be gone on that cut, and that gets into the roots and kills it for good. But it's a horrible thing to have, and this is pretty common in the eastern part of the country. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll ask you about that later. Share your garden. I know you hate to do that, but I got no blueberries this year. My cardinals ate them all, and that's okay. My tomatoes, I don't eat tomatoes anyhow. I just grow them, so that was no big loss. But I'm not too sure who got the tomato. I think it was a brown thrasher. Got my one tomato I had, so I got discouraged. I pulled the whole plant out, threw it away. So nothing else was, it's not something I enjoy growing that much. It's just magic. But share your garden. You get your bluebirds, you get catbirds that will come to this, and again, cardinals, all sorts of birds will come to your ripe fruit. And this little guy, he came to our yard for about 20 minutes a couple of months ago. And, you know, as much as I don't want deer in my yard, I couldn't help but fall in love with him. He was just, and I did not see his mom, but you know, they do have a habit of laying their babies down somewhere, sometimes at your front door. It could be some very interesting places, and they leave them all day. And they go hunting and they come back that night or maybe even the next day, and people don't know that. They pick the fawn up, they take it to a rehab place, and they didn't need to do that. So
Yeah, well, we had one for
12 hours.
full 12 hours.
Yeah. And then the mom came and got it. Yeah. The one thing that I've found, and you don't want to use it with edibles, is to put milorganite around the flowers that the deer are eating. It's MIL, made in Milwaukee, milorganite, and it's fairly inexpensive. It's a gray granule that stinks. It really smells bad. And you just spread it on the ground, and it's probably made from human, yeah, and so you don't want to put it on your vegetables, but it works. It'll keep your deer away. MIL, then organite, ORGANITE, just like it sounds, milorganite. I use it all the time. In fact, I may be using it too much because I'm actually starting to like the smell. So I'm a little worried about that.
It's also fish extract.
Yeah, yeah, it's.
Love it, so I can't use it.
Yeah. Yeah. More of your soft mass. Hawthorns are not really something people look for to go get, but they're a nice small tree, and you might actually, if you live in an area that is, picture of my bird, an area that is open enough with hawthorns, they have those spiny things on their sticks, on their limbs, and on shrike, and we don't have very many shrike left because people aren't using the hawthorns as they used to. They're closing, they're just not the habitat for them. And by the way, you're going to see a little number up here that will come in once in a while, and that is the number of species of birds that eat that fruit. And I got that information from this book, and it's the Ecology of Fruit-Eating Birds in Georgia. And two guys that are still around did this over a long period of time back in probably the 80s and 90s, mostly South Georgia. So there's a lot of South Georgia plants in here, but I eliminated those, I think. And it gives an idea of who eats what and which trees are used the most often. You can get this from GOS.org, which is the Georgia Ornithological Society.org. Just put GOS.org, it should go to it, and go down to whatever tab you need to get these guys. I think there's some left still in circulation. But it was fun to do all the tallying of everything that was there. And you can see this is before spreadsheets. Anyhow, that is a nice plant. So you can get possibly a lot of other birds, 15 other species will eat this. And the other soft things are like sugarberries, hackberries. Don't think that's a real common plant that people go out and buy. They don't think about it. But again, it has very nice berries that are good for, like, example, summer tanagers and scarlet tanagers. Southern magnolias, which are not native up here, but are the red bays native up here? Okay, so you can, but as long as they have berries. We had one of these at Fernbank one time. I looked up into it in September during fall migration. There were all 3 species of thrushes. There were 2 species of vireos. There was scarlet tanager, summer tanager, bluebirds, maybe about 14 species in one tree. It was amazing. So, as much as a lot of people don't like them because they're so big and drop their leaves and all that, they are very good for the birds that come get them. Who did I put up here? With thrush. 20 species use southern magnolias. Get a lot of wax myrtles that are more common on the coast, but I deliberately buy them for my yard and keep them fairly small. They will take over if you don't. They'll get big, they'll also spread, but the berries are excellent for lots of warblers that will eat that. Not a whole lot, but a lot of the yellow-rumped warblers will eat those, and tree swallows. If you go down to the coast, you'll see tree swallows just literally falling into the wax myrtles and spend some time in there eating those berries and coming back out. You're talking thousands of birds falling in because they love those little berries. They're very. A lot of tree swallows. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun to watch. Yeah, and I don't know what. That the trick to that is to put another, like a bluebird house, 5 feet from another house, and the tree swallow here, the bluebird here, because you won't get the same. Right. Yeah. Eastern red cedars, if you want some cedar, some trees in there that are not deciduous, has some pretty good berries. And Carolina wrens, along with 10 other species, will do that. American beautyberry, y'all know how to tell the difference in American versus Asian? Yeah. Yeah. I learned that one planting too late. So I have Asian beautyberries that I am in the process of cutting, and then I'm going to put a little drop of the poison on them. But these guys are attached to the stem right on it, where the Asian ones have a little bit of a stalk, maybe half an inch stalk. So live and learn. Ever see birds on there? Oh yeah. I've seen mockingbirds. Yeah, the thrushes like them. Thrushes like, and they'll even eat the Asian one. So that's, I know they'll eat the American, but I have one tree in our neighborhood that's American, so I need to go grab some of its berries. But titmice, chickadees, they all love it, and 15 other species. Persimmons, these are the big persimmons that will grow and you can make things. Yeah, they'll, have y'all eaten persimmon before they've been ripe? Oh, but these are the big ones, these are Asian. Yeah. Yeah, but there's a native persimmon. And I had 2 of those, and they only got this big. They were my bonsai persimmons. They were this big. And the thrushes especially, I don't know what example I put in up here, but woodpeckers, they would get in there and eat those. The unfortunate thing was they both died somewhere over the winter a couple of years ago. The other thing is I did a recipe of persimmon cake, and so I picked about 50 of them. And I don't know if you've done this before to the native ones. By the time you peel it and take the seed out, you have this much of your persimmon. So it really didn't turn out too well. But I've been tempted to try to get another one. But yeah, to be careful of which ones you get.
FYI, they're male and female, so I
We'll
I
try.
think they're delicious. Not everybody
Yeah,
wants them.
yeah.
They just do get taller than that.
Oh,
Years.
yeah,
They get very tall.
yeah, yeah.
We have 3 just down from us in the meadow.
Yeah. I don't know why mine. You also know that if you take your tall plants like ironweed and Joe Pye weed, which I have Joe Pye weed to get rid of because it will spread, and you do, what's it called, the Chelsea chop? Y'all know that?
Oh, when you cut them
July
July 1st.
1st, you cut your tall guys back halfway at least, and they won't grow much taller, but they will get all their flowers on there. Yeah, so my Joe Pye weed was this big all summer, and it's got flat feathery blossoms on it now a little bit. My ironweed, I didn't do the ironweed, but I will next year, make it a little bit shorter. So that's a little. I did. Yeah, I think probably all of them. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
If you do it later, I think you improve the flower.
Probably. Yeah, something about the 1st of July. I did mine in end of June, and it worked. Also, persimmons are eaten by non-feathered critters that are out there. So there you have it. No, yeah. Black gum or tupelo, this blooms it gets berries every other year. So you might not have it for 1 year, but this is another plant with these little tiny berries that birds absolutely love. 26 species of birds will eat these little berries. And we put a blue jay in just because he's there. Raspberries, these are nice because they're lower, so the birds that don't go up to the tops of the trees will forage a little bit lower on the ground and close to it. So raspberries are good. A lot of bluebirds will do this, blue grosbeaks, prairie warblers. It's usually a plant that you find in some sunny edges of forests, and it's much better if you've got a wall of trees here to plant some shorter shrubs and vegetation to get what we call a feathered effect going into that hard, stark, abrupt edge of the forest, just to make it softer. And so any little thing that can grow in there, including goldenrod and all that good stuff, just something to make it a little bit more appealing to these birds, because it provides shelter for them too. And then pokeweed, don't eat it unless you know when you can eat it, but you'll get a lot of catbirds love my pokeweed. It's a little unsightly and it gets kind of big and loppy looking, but it's actually fun to watch. And years ago, people would put their laundry out, the white sheets out, and next to a poke salad, and the catbirds all over the white sheets. Any of the muscadine type grapes, native, the small little native grape is good too. 11 species. That's really why the blue jays use the grapes, but you never know. And the 2 viney guys, the Virginia creeper. Y'all have Virginia creeper on your trees? It's turning red right now. You can see some of the berries. Birds absolutely love this stuff. And it's blooming. It bloomed earlier, but it's all in berry now. And there's migration is in process right now, early September to late October. So when you know where these are, that's where you spend your time birding. So if I were to leave my house and I want to see thrushes or tanagers, a good place, I would go into Dawson Forest where I know this stuff is growing. And we got them yesterday. We got some stuff yesterday. So you get some of the migrants will eat that, not just your cardinals and titmice. A lot of, yeah. And the other one is poison ivy. I know poison ivy on the ground, that doesn't do anything but become a nuisance. But if you've got some climbing up a tree and you don't have any problem with dogs or kids that might rub up against it, leave it on that tree and you can see the berries, and they're all in heavy berry. It's going to be a good berry year. This is where you want to go to see some really good birds. And I'm not sure if I did that picture or not. Yeah, here's a downy woodpecker in there. Who would think a downy woodpecker would eat the berries of poison ivy? But they do that, and the Virginia creeper, but they will. So 29 species. In fact, I think of all of these, it's the second biggest bird attractor as far as berries is poison ivy. So if you can do that, that would be nice. Pyracantha, the truth about pyracantha is that it does have cyanide, and you want to make sure that birds don't spend a lot of time in there, and most birds don't. Robins, thrashers, cardinals, they eat these berries. They get some cyanide, but they don't engorge themselves on pyracantha berries. They go on to another something else. The cedar waxwings, you've probably seen those. A flock of 100 will come down to the pyracantha and eat every berry on every pyracantha in an area. Well, yeah, they're going to get sick because they're getting so much cyanide. So it's not a, I'm not saying don't dig it up and throw it away. I would do the same. In fact, I pull the berries off in our neighborhood when I'm out walking. And it would, if you're going to do that, it would be a lot easier to pull the flowers off in the spring. They're not as heavy as the berries, but I pull them all off when my neighbors aren't looking. But if you have cedar waxwings, you're going to get some dead cedar waxwings. But it's not like it's going to kill every bird out there. So not to panic, just get rid of it if you want to, but it won't kill anything. Hard masts are like the water oaks, and Doug Tallamy says the best thing out there are the oak trees. In fact, he's got a book on oaks. You need to read it. I thought I knew everything, at least enough about oaks to make me happy. I learned so much, and he does it by month, what an oak tree is going through. It's an excellent book. I have a picture of it coming up. Water oaks, again, the storing of them someplace like the woodpeckers and the blue jays, where they buried them in the ground or eat them. Hard masts in the pines, all the pines out there. The best place for really good birds in these pine trees is Dawson Forest is pretty good. We have a lot of Virginia pine. Brasstown Bald, they have a lot of Virginia pine up there. Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. Well, the crossbills have that bill that's crossed, obviously, and it fits right into that bract to get the little seed out of the pine cones. So they're adapted to that. So that's a good place. And I don't have a picture of that, but the brown-headed nuthatch, which is much more common in your backyard. And then the insectivores do that, exactly that. And they eat the insects. And Doug Tallamy says that a single, well, what was he using? One of the oaks, a red oak or something, a single one of those can have up to 500 different species of caterpillars. And so he says, if you have to buy a tree for someplace, get an oak. And he said the fastest growing one is a Shumark. Is that right? Yeah, he said that's the fastest growing one that's out there. It'll be adult. He says, thinking of himself and many of his best friends, he said, we don't have time to plant an acorn. He said, and I thought, well, yeah, 30 years it might be up there. But he says, get one that's 10 feet tall, and it'll be producing oaks and enough foliage to. A typical bird, like a bluebird, will feed up to 4,000 of these during one nesting, one clutch, which might be 5 babies. So they need a lot of caterpillars, and the oaks are the ones you want. The insectivores, this is something I had read a little while ago, that they're very advanced. They eat a lot of beetles and moth caterpillars on vegetation. And so they resulted in $444 million saving of crop losses. Nowadays we just use spray, but back then it was the insectivores eating it. And when was that written? Seems like that's a lot of money. It was 100 years ago. So if we had enough insects out there that could take care of the insects birds, take care of the insects on the crops, we'd be fine, but we don't give them a chance. We just use our herbicides and whatever. Probably one of the best, and you have tulip poplars, I'm sure, in your yard. Those flowers bloom right when the neotropical migrants are coming through in early May, late April, early May, and they get the insects that are in these flowers. And so if you have a choice of what trees, you got to cut some down to open the forest up, or whatever your reason is, we always ask whoever's doing that to leave the tulip poplars, take down the sweet gums if you have to, but leave these for the insects that they'll need, especially during that time of year when they really need some energy to get up to the boreal forest that they'll nest. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. The hummingbirds would use it for nectar, but I think of it mostly as the one that supports these guys when they're migrating through. And these are all neotropical migrants. The northern parula will nest here. I just threw him in because I like him. But the others go up to the boreal forest up in northern Canada. And I know you know all these birds already, right? So maybe not. We're going to get you out on some field trips. Redbud, you want some things that are, blooming really early. Redbuds bloom nice and early for those early migrants that come through, like red-eyed vireos. And interestingly, birds like any of these guys, when they're in a tree looking for caterpillars, they don't look for the caterpillar. It's often underneath the leaf anyhow. What they're looking for is the marks that a caterpillar had been there. And so when they see leaves that are chewed up like this, or even just one little edge, there's been something, there could be most likely a caterpillar that's in that area, if not on that leaf. And so that's what they're always looking for. So it's not such a big secret, or, they, oh, wow, they can see these caterpillars only this big. They're using the holes that are in the tree.
I'm always amazed by how they find them. I try to find caterpillars on the leaves. I'm
Yeah.
always flipping them
Yeah.
to ID them for iNaturalist. I have 0 left.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, wow, how did they fit them all?
Yeah, that too. But look for the holes in the leaves. All right, these are the 3 Doug Tallamy books. The Bringing Nature Home is his first one, and then I think The Nature of Oaks might be his second. And the one that came out more recently is The Best Hope. The Best Hope is a little bit of a repeat of the first one. So if you only could get 2 of these, I get the Best Hope and the Oaks. But the Oaks is really a good book. And these are the kind of books you want to buy the actual book, because you're going to loan it to someone. If you get it on your Kindle, you can't loan that as easily.
And that first one is here in the library.
Yeah, yeah, they're excellent. Tallamy.
I think give them as good.
Yeah. Okay, quickly, the structure. This is something that you look at your area around you, assuming that you've got some wooded area or something else on your property. And you can see that we've got different levels of vegetation from the ground up. And it's best to have a little bit of all of that, because some birds like it high in the trees. If you have a high-pitched song, like a Cape May warbler, you got to be at the top of a tree, because that little high-pitched song would attenuate in the bottom of the forest, bumping against all of the trunks and stuff. So the high-pitched singers are way up high. The lower-pitched singers are closer to the ground, if not on the ground. So here's a very healthy-looking forest. It doesn't have a lot of deer damage in there. It's got plants all the way down to the bottom. So this is what you're aiming for. My cousin lives someplace in Tennessee, and they have forests. They have all 9, 10, 20 acres of land on each house. And they brag about the forests around them, and they're all from here down, nothing. And so it's just the deer. And they go out sometimes on purpose and clear out my neighbors. They clear out their understory because, I don't know, because.
Because it looks good. My husband loves that look.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like starvation.
Yeah. It's like mine go all the way, my branches go all the way to the ground, and it's just more natural looking. So here are your big canopy trees. This is what you see when you look out around here. Some of the hemlocks, if they're still around. Everybody else that's out there, black gums, sweet gums, and you're attracting these birds that are nesting here. Most of these, none of these are permanent residents, except for the yellow-throated warbler here. He would stay here all year, sometimes. But these other guys, red-eyed vireos, scarlet tanagers, parulas, blackburnian, this is at Soseby Cove nesting, and black-throated green at Soseby Cove. They're at Soseby. Most of these guys start leaving here at the end of July. Fall migration starts really early. Once you finish nesting and got your kids out of the house, you're ready to go, but you don't have to hurry, because you only get into the Gulf of Mexico, and then you got to fly over that thing. That's 500 miles. That's 20 hours. So you got to eat a lot between where you nested and St. Petersburg. And then when you take off, you have the energy to finish that migration. But for the most part, these guys are finished by the end of July. They have one nest, so they better make it worth it. Birds down in the tropics nest 2, 3, 4 times a year, because there's no seasonal down there. So these guys are very protective of that nest. They're very territorial, and they'll be doing a lot of singing. I'll meet you at Soseby Cove on May 1st at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's the Oba, the dawn chorus. My gosh, it's overwhelming, with about 20 species of birds singing, and a lot of them these guys. So, and that's because it's Soseby. You all know Soseby Cove. Yeah, that's because it's protected. We're going to do a new entry signage in Soseby Cove, and we're getting rid of the, what's his name? The fat guy that's Woody. I think they're going to get rid of that. But she's asked us to do, I'm doing the one on birds and just do a little signage going through it. It'll be done sometime next summer. Here's your understory. This is the layer just below the heavy overstory canopy. These are mostly understory. And the good thing about knowing what level they want to be, that's where you look for them. So if you see something really high in the tree, you can narrow down what that bird's probably going to be. If it's kind of eye level, it'll be one of these guys. They nest close to the ground, if not on it. Looking at hooded warblers, Cadian flycatchers, robins in the woods, blue-gray gnatcatchers, rose-breasted grosbeaks, and summer tanagers. This guy is the one that we go to Brasstown Bald for because it's the tallest part in the state, and coming down the Blue Ridge Parkway, it just grabs Brasstown Bald, and up and down the Blue Ridge are the nesting red rose-breasted grosbeaks. So you're guaranteed to get them. Shrub, scrub, this is a tough one because if you don't do something to this area, what happens to it? You don't, yeah, or different ones that are inedible, and these things will grow. And so if you have a power line cut or just an area that is left fallow now, and the hardest thing is the grasses from cow pastures, that's the hardest. But if it's just growing into weeds like the power line cut in Dawson Forest, it's absolutely beautiful. And they, with the goldenrods and the ironweeds, it's just gorgeous. And lots of birds in there. They come through about every 4 years and cut it to the ground. I mean, not anything is showing but dirt. And the next year it comes up and it's even better. It's even more stunning. You got to take care of these because these are all brush and bramble nesters and eaters of all their berries and hardmast, chats out there. I can get you these easily. Here's some of the what you call of berries. Song sparrows, blue grosbeaks, chestnut-sided warblers, and white-eyed vireos and prairie warblers. They're not going to be, you know, when I go into the forest, I know where to look for what's going to be there, and they don't go different places. They're at that hamburger. Herbaceous layers. This is some of the red black-eyed Susan we can get you in the count. This is all 2-3 feet over the ground. These are your kind of ground nesters. Goldfinches, they're crazy. They go wherever they want to go. Cardinals are crazy too. This is a specialty of ground nesting, look close to the ground in the woods, and lots of ferns that are out in there.
Everybody's finches also gone? I just don't see any finches right now.
They're at my
A month
feeder.
ago, I had tons of them.
They're goldfinches.
Yeah.
They nest pretty late. They nest in August, so they could still be with their families, getting them fledged and on their own. But they'll be back.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Just lately have not.
I'll send some of my 40 up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had about that many.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Somebody in your neighborhood.
They'll be back. They'll come back when they get hungry enough. You know, there's a lot of fruit out there that's blooming, that's in style right now. And don't forget the vines. Whoops, it's animation. No. Okay, the diversity. This is a picture from Jekyll Island when you went on, and I almost got a headache looking at this. And this is not a diverse habitat. It's not native, and it's not diverse. And birds, like anything, you need diversity to exist. Think about all your fast food restaurants you go to. If the only thing they sold were Freddy's hamburgers and nothing else, you would stop going there. You want diversity. You got to have pizza in there, and you got to have, you know, all sorts of different things. So this is what your yard should look like. And there's a pretty good chance that you're going to say, this is fine in May, June, July, maybe August, but come December and November, this is going to look awful because we like the sticks to stay up. Don't break those sticks off. There's some minor bees that will overwinter in those sticks. But people walk by, like our HOA guy, and a couple days later you get a letter and it says, can you please get rid of the weeds in your front yard? And I nicely emailed him back, says, I challenge you to find a weed in my front yard or my backyard. And I said, they're all native pollinator plants. I think he replied, and he came over and Jim was home. And,
it wasn't him.
it was the president.
He understood.
Yeah. It was the guys above him that owned. And so but they've left us alone. I even can keep a sign out, like one of those. We're not allowed signs, but we can do that. So be careful what your result will be in the wintertime. You can cut all those sticks back, but put the most of the stuff someplace where people won't necessarily see it. But we also have ways, more in June, more stable it is, to make it look intended. That's what you want your pollinator garden to be. So you can put, these are just examples of pollinator gardens in various places. So you can put a pot in there, a flower pot, white fences, even if it's only 10 feet long or 3 feet, seem to do the trick. It looks like you did this on purpose. You put a little table and a bench in there, little, you know, and it looks fine. A sign is the best. It's the cheapest to buy one of these signs.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Sign.
Yeah, the sign, educational. All right, this is the last of this, and this I got out of this here. So when you have no trees in your yard, you're starting over, or you have a 20 acres that you need to do something with, you got rid of all the bad stuff, and you can do that with putting plastic over it and cardboard or mulch. The plastic's going to kill everything under that plastic, you know, all the insects, the earthworms, not a good thing. Use cardboard, at least it's a little more porous. And so, you know, or you can use sprays. A lot of places just use herbicides and they don't kill the insects and stuff, but they kill the grass. So be careful what you're doing. But you put in an American holly and you got 9 species of birds that came to your yard because they really like American holly. So you got cedar waxwings, you got Baltimore orioles, whoops, and you got that guy. I'm not sure what he is. He's very rare. And so not bad. You got 9 birds in your yard, 9 species of birds in your yard. So we added a persimmon. You found a little nice native, tiny little buried persimmon tree, and you added that, some nice, really good fruit. And you get 9 new species of hummingbirds in your yard now. So you added up to the first 9, you got 18 species of birds in your yard. Not bad at all. All right, adding a hawthorn. Nobody else has one, you'll try something different. So you put a hawthorn out there, you get 6 new species that will specifically like that hawthorn. They'll like other stuff, but they'll come to your hawthorn. They really kind of like it. Wrens, white-throated sparrows, and blue grosbeaks. So how many do you have now? You lost count, didn't you? You got 24 species of birds coming to your yard, which is not bad at all. And you add a blueberry bush or 2, anticipating that these, well, other birds also will like your blueberries with your orchard orioles, white-eyed vireos, towies, and red-headed woodpeckers.
And cardinals.
Yeah, and cardinals and catfish, catbirds, yeah. 33 species. Are you finished? No, not quite yet. You're going to add a dogwood. Everybody likes dogwoods. You get 9 more species of birds by adding a dogwood. And you know, we got some repeats here, but that's okay because they count. And now you have 42 species of birds coming, and we're not going to remove that poison ivy. We're going to leave it on there, and the Virginia creeper. So we get 7 new species coming. Now you have 49 species of birds coming by adding 6 species of fruit-bearing plants to your landscape. You went from 0 birds to 49 species of birds. It's a pretty good deal. It's a good reward for putting in trees, especially if you can transplant trees that won't cost you an arm and leg to do. So here is here's what I was talking about that I got from the book. Red mulberry is the very best. Flowering dogwood, serviceberries, poison ivies, all the way down the list. Okay, and the last is your area. So you need to go out here and buy 1 million acres of property and make sure it's, you know, deer proof enough that it doesn't get the low understory or doesn't eat it up. That's probably not real practical. A lot of times this is what happens to landscapes, where in this one here, the forest is 13% of this area, 77 different species of birds, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't, not for the size of this landscape. It's not. So we went ahead and left some of the vegetation so that these fragmented islands are bigger. So only 30%, 30% now is forested, and a total of 100. You gain 30 birds just because you left more of this, because they use these areas as flyways and nesting. They can be a little dangerous if they're too narrow, because predators like possums and deer come in and eat the eggs. So that's one thing that you can do in your yard. So you don't have to buy the Chattahoochee National Forest. These are the beds that we had in our farmers market at our downtown. We now have 6 beds that they built for us, and things just grow amazingly. Doug Tallamy, Go to the Dawson County Women's page. There's a whole, on native plants, a whole ton of stuff on there that I put on a couple of years ago. And that is it. So, questions? So you got my phone number, you got my email, hopefully. There's these handouts out there that I did just the other day. And if you want to take a look at this, it's a very interesting book. These two old farts are out there, and they did all of this in about 2 years, I think. So it was this is, you're forced to do these kinds of things when you work for the Forest Service. Darn my luck. Yes, sir.
Before you do questions, let me get a mic to you if you're going to ask a question so that it comes through clearly.
What can you do for watering the hummingbirds? You had one red thing there with a little perch on it, and we don't have anything for water except streams nearby.
Oh, that's
Can
probably
we do
enough.
anything?
That's probably, well, and if you got a leaf and it rains and you've got a couple drops, they're going to take a bath in that and drink it. So they're a lot more resourceful, especially a hummingbird, because it doesn't take much water. You can leave water out in a tub or something, but watch the mosquitoes.
Yeah, they got a lot of mosquitoes.
Yeah, so
So are
don't
you
do that.
saying if there's streams around, we don't really need to bother, just feed them?
Yeah, and if it rains enough, they're going to get water off the leaves. And if there's no water and they need it, they'll go find it, which could explain why you don't have as many hummingbirds one year, because it's been dry.
Is the sugar to water 4-to-1?
Like your hand, 4-to-1. Okay, 1 cup sugar, 4 cups water.
Got it.
And you do this to it. Not this. This is boiling. This is just stirring. Somebody else told me you don't have to boil your water to dissolve your sugar anymore. New rule. Just mix it in there, mix it really well. And there's something out now, it contains 0.03% copper. And you put 1 capful of the copper in that, and it will last longer. Even in your refrigerator, it will last longer, because these birds normally get copper out of their berries and stuff, but this is like 1/10 of what they normally get. It won't hurt them, but it keeps the water clear.
We have well water.
Well, you want to dump your water out this time of the year at least every 5 days when it's hot, 4 days, and fill it up again. So it's a continual process. About every 4 days, dump out your water, no matter what you do to it. But if you use the little copper stuff, it'll last maybe 5 days. And
She's asking about the prep work. You don't have to boil the water.
no,
You don't have
Just-
to boil
just
the
stir it.
water. Just stir it.
yeah, because
Regular-
otherwise,
Regular tap water?
yeah,
Is that right?
if you
Okay.
if you forget that it's on the stove and you're stirring it in the hot water, you don't need hot water, just cold water, just stir it. Don't heat it up at all. Takes 53 minutes for that sugar water to boil dry. And then you got this black scum
Yeah.
in your pot, and then you carry it outside and your husband says, "What did you do?" I burned my sugar water. So the danger of sugar water is gone. Just don't boil it. Just put it in there.
What about seed when they start chlorinating?
It doesn't seem to bother them.
Okay.
They don't say anything about
Take
it.
your word for it.
Yeah.
I started using a quart canning jar,
Yeah.
and you just shake it.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize